I'm Madison, a 45-year-old divorcee who had sworn off marriage for good. The reason I was fed up with marriage was because I was exploited as a caregiver by my former in-laws during my previous marriage. After my first marriage, I obtained a certification as a home helper, now known as a certified nursing assistant. I was very close to my grandmother and wanted to take proper care of her when she became bedridden, which is why I pursued the certification. However, upon learning this, my then-husband's parents told me right after my grandmother's funeral. "Now it's your turn to take care of our grandparents." They said this while I was still in tears from losing my grandmother. I was appalled by their insensitivity, but indeed, from the very next day, I was burdened with taking care of my former husband's grandparents all by myself. Despite appealing to my ex-husband, he did nothing to help, saying, "You're the wife, so it's only natural," and didn't even try to mediate with his parents. I endured this for about 2 years but finally couldn't take it anymore and managed to divorce him with the help of a lawyer. That's why, after the divorce, I never dated men who had living grandparents or parents, and I turned down all matchmaking proposals. Having acquired multiple certifications in caregiving, I was confident that I could get a job in a nursing home and support myself if needed. It was Tom, a colleague of mine, who approached me. We worked in the same department, so we had many opportunities to talk, and I gradually became attracted to Tom's bright and refreshing personality. However, unfortunately, he had parents to care for, so when he asked me out, I explained my situation with my divorce and turned him down. But Tom kept saying, "I will never let you go through the hardship of caregiving," and trusting his words, I accepted his proposal at the age of 40. Life with Tom was smooth sailing at first. He was a top-performing sales employee, and even if I quit my job as he wished, we had enough savings to live comfortably. Though we were at an age where having children was not an option, we thought we could enjoy our retirement just the two of us. But our dream shattered when Tom was forced to resign due to office politics. It was a huge shock for him, and he lost his motivation to work. With him shutting himself in his room all day, I decided to re-enter the workforce. However, finding a full-time job for a housewife over 40 with a gap in her resume was difficult. Even if I found one, the pay was at best around $1,500 a month in this area. While I was contemplating what to do, I saw a job posting for a caregiving facility. I knew that caregiving jobs were hard, but some places offered between $2,000 to $2,500, depending on the location and position. Thinking I would persevere until Tom could work again, I decided to take the job at the caregiving facility. The work was more challenging than I had imagined. I had to keep an eye on dozens of residents, assist them with eating, changing, bathing, toileting, and come up with recreational activities. I felt like I was running around all day, and I lost 11 pounds in a month, often experiencing fainting spells due to anemia. Naturally, I had no energy left to take care of Tom after returning home. I would almost always collapse upon getting home, and eventually, he began to complain, saying, "Madison, you smell." Dealing with the residents' excrement was a daily task. Since food often got spit out due to swallowing difficulties, the smell inevitably clung to me. After being pointed out by my husband, I tried to take a shower immediately after coming home, doing my best to prevent his mood from worsening further. But one day, Tom said, "Can't you find a better job?" and I was infuriated. Day in and day out, I take care of the elderly, have night shifts, and all for a mere take-home pay of just over $2,000. It's ridiculous. I used to earn twice that without night shifts or weekends. And, lately you've had a strong smell of aging. Is it the smell of old people? Or is it you? How could he say such things when I was working hard to support him? I take pride in my work. I was also furious that he belittled my profession as a caregiver. Then go ahead and earn twice as much. "If you do, I'll quit my job right now," I snapped back, making him turn red with anger. "How can you be so cold? I'm suffering here, and you're telling me to work." From then on, our exchanges became a series of tit-for-tat, and we hardly spoke to each other afterwards. However, I wanted to avoid divorce at all costs. Being from a small town, my divorce had already become the talk of the town in a not-so-flattering way. If I became a two-time divorcee, I could only imagine what would be said. I didn't want to cause my parents any more distress than I already had. Tom felt the same. Having been pushed out of his job on top of being a divorcee, he was seen as an unfortunate man by those around us. and if he became a two-time divorcee on top of that. Since we both had our interests in mind, we came to an unspoken agreement to somewhat reconcile. And Tom decided to start working part-time at a delivery warehouse nearby, just 2 days a week. He complained non-stop about not being suited for physical labor but reluctantly agreed when I asked him to at least earn his own spending money. During this time, a celebration for my father-in-law's 77th birthday was planned. I heard that Tom's sister always took charge of family gatherings, so I contacted her to say I wouldn't be attending. I would be returning home around 9 a.m. after a night shift, and the celebration was starting at 11 a.m., leaving no time for sleep. I thought it would be a nuisance if I attended in such a state. When she said to me, "Don't you realize you're the eldest son's wife?" So I asked, what does that have to do with anything? It's highly relevant. Your in-laws, especially being the wife of the heir, should be your top priority. Skipping it just because you're up all night? That's outrageous, she yelled at me. I explained that the caregiving facility was short-staffed and there was no one to cover for me, but she completely ignored that. She even went as far as to say, just like my brother said. You're the type to kick him while he's down. Making him work and do physical labor without a second thought. Insensitive people don't care about family. And to think, you work with old, smelly, and dirty people. Only someone as thick-skinned and insensitive as you could handle that kind of job. She hung up on me before I could retort in anger. On the day of the celebration, Tom dragged me along, and I attended in a half-asleep state. Immediately, his sister blurted out, "Wow, just like my brother said, Madison really does stink," waking me up. To accuse someone like that at a celebration was utterly disrespectful. And Tom added, "Doesn't she? I can't tell if it's her or the residents from the facility, but the smell doesn't even go away with a bath anymore." Yeah, that's the worst. They were cheerfully chatting about such an awful topic. Feeling disgusted, my mother-in-law said, "Well, she's going to be taking care of us someday, so let's not say anything too harsh." Then my sister-in-law said, "Oh, right, she's a professional. With Madison here, we're set for our old age," to which the in-laws agreed. Infuriated, I asked, "Why is that?" "Huh? Because you're the eldest son's wife and a caregiving pro, so it's already decided," she laughed. "That's not decided at all. Besides, a daughter-in-law is not obligated to take care of her in-laws," I replied with a smile. Seeing their puzzled faces, I explained, "It's determined by Article 877 of the Civil Code. Only direct blood relatives and siblings, meaning people who are blood related to the in-laws, have the duty to support each other. And if someone who is obligated to provide care neglects this duty, they can be held accountable," I added, causing a stir among everyone present. However, this duty mentioned in the law refers to financial support. So, providing for living expenses or paying for nursing home fees suffices. If that's not possible, then daily care is also acceptable, I elaborated carefully. Having been forced to care for my former in-laws in my previous marriage, I thoroughly researched caregiving qualifications and laws after my divorce. Tom then blanched, saying, "I don't have any money." Then, as a duty of a biological child, why don't you take care of them daily or ask your sister for financial support? His sister then panicked, "No way, that's a joke. I mean, I have to take care of my husband's parents." "So, you have no obligation to take care of your husband's parents. Please explain that to them and ask them to take care of their own parents," I said with a smile. That's when my in-laws, who had been quiet, chimed in. "Madison, you're a professional caregiver, right? Taking care of us should be easy for you." "Yeah, it's only proper for you to take care of us rather than strangers' parents." I was infuriated by their words. "I work full-time. It's impossible." Then, my mother-in-law suggested nonchalantly that I should just quit my job at the facility. "And what about mine and Tom's living expenses? Are you saying you'll cover those?" When I mentioned that I earn about $2,200 at the facility and that they would have to compensate me that amount if I quit, they both fell silent, exchanging glances. However, Tom and his sister were far from convinced. "Do you think that kind of reasoning will work? Being married to the eldest son, it's only natural for you to take care of his parents," they argued. As if theirs wasn't the flawed logic. Worse yet, Tom denied ever promising not to burden me with caregiving duties before we got married. That's when my anger exploded. You know very well how hard caregiving is, having seen me work every day. It's physically demanding, it stinks, and it's stressful. You and your sister laughed at me, calling elderly care dirty and smelly. You expect me to do all that for free while neither of you lift a finger. I yelled at the top of my lungs, my voice echoing through the room. At that, both of them looked down, their faces showing guilt. But after a while, Tom shamelessly suggested that when his parents needed care, I should get them into the facility I work at for a cheap price. That's impossible. Besides, our place is a special nursing home with a long wait list. There's almost no chance of getting in. I coldly dismissed the idea. So, if your parents ever need caregiving, I'll be counting on Tom, his sister, and her children to take the lead, thank you very much. I said before leaving the dinner early and going home. I went straight to the city hall to pick up divorce papers, signed them upon returning home, left them on the living room table. Took only a few personal items, and left the house. Afterward, the dinner party reportedly turned chaotic. Even though Tom's parents didn't yet need care, he and his sister started arguing over who should take responsibility. The father blamed the mother for their children's poor upbringing, and the mother accused Tom of choosing the wrong wife. Even Tom's sister's husband, her daughter, and other relatives got involved, causing a huge uproar. After a bit of turmoil, the divorce was finalized, and Tom, unable to support himself, reluctantly moved back in with his parents. Trying to escape caregiving duties, he registered on a dating site exclusive to nurses, desperately reaching out to anyone. At over 40 and only working a part-time job twice a week, he truly is a hopeless case. I became a 2-time divorcee, but I have no regrets. It happened just when my father received a Care Level 2 certification, so I decided to return home and help my mother take care of him.